Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Doing business in life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and we created this show for you because we want everyone to learn how to do business in life to make an impact in the world. What impact will you make today? And this is going to be a fun show because in the green room, we were laughing, talking, and learning. But this guest is got an incredible story. I want to welcome Martha to the show.
Hi, so good, so thrilled to be with you today.
Thank you. I got to start with this, learning about you and reading about you. You work for the CIA, which I know I'm supposed to say, but I don't get tracked down. I'm mostly kidding. And now you're into this coaching and inner success, which I'm a sports guy. Love inner success. Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, so it is sort of a curious path to go from soldier, spy, C-level corporate exec into transformational success. But the curious part about it is it actually was not deliberate. I didn't start out intending to be a coach, because for me, the truth is there was that day when I was sitting at my desk in Southeast Asia, head in my hands, just got off the phone with my boss, where she had proceeded to rip me a new one yet again about everything that my team and I were and were not doing that weren't getting her the results that she wanted. And the worst part about it was it wasn't a surprise to me. I knew things weren't working out. I knew I was failing, but I could not for the life of me figure out what to do about it. So I'm sitting there with my head in my hands, feeling like, a colossal waste of space and oxygen on the planet, because I've got the coolest job in the world in an organization that I truly believe in. And here I am a wreck. Yeah. I'm a wreck. So I'm sitting there with my head in my hands, and all of a sudden it's like I hear the words of an old Army captain ringing through my head when he says, "Lieutenant, when in charge, take charge." And that was the moment that I realized it was time for me to take charge, not of my team or my time or my targets, all those things outside of me. It was time for me to take charge of me. It was time for me to make a decision. And I'll spare you the long version of the story unless it comes out later in our conversation. But suffice to say, that was the moment I decided something needs to shift. And the one common denominator around everything that is and is not working in my life is right here. So that's why I went to get my very first ever coaching certification, not because I gave a rat's behind about becoming a coach. I was trying to save myself.
Yeah.
And as one thing led to another, and I stepped into another role, still inside CIA.
Wow.
That used all of the expertise that I brought with me up until that point. I started reinventing my life, first inside CIA, then when I graduated, going on to build my own business. And the curious part about it is, even before I started my practice, even before I started my coaching business, the work that I was doing as a coach made me a better leader inside my own organization.
Isn't that great? And it's funny how you fall into coaching. A lot of great successful coaches have the expertise, experience like you've had, and you fall into it because you almost not have to. But, well, let me ask you this. You said leadership, and I'm glad you did. That's a leadership style. I'm not a fan of it, but what does a servant leader look like to you?
And that's actually a trick question for me, because one of the things that I was doing as I was reinventing myself was actually teaching leadership inside CIA. And one of the biggest how do I want to say this? One of the biggest mistakes that I saw people make when it came to attempting to step into a servant leadership style was this mistaken concept that servant means sacrifice.
Mm.
And the problem with that is that sacrifice, by definition, means giving from a place of limited resources, which means at some point, there's nothing left to give. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep.
So to me, servant leadership is actually a form of transformational leadership. It is growing yourself such that you can support, grow, uplift other people. It's uncovering the greatness in yourself, because that is specifically what allows you to spot and foster the greatness in somebody else.
So well said. And I'm talking to some military people who have been on my show, talk about mentorship. What's your thought on leadership and mentorship, especially servant leadership?
Yeah. So first of all, mentorship to me is a very personal thing.
Mm.
In that, because I remember back in my organizational days, they would attempt to assign us mentors. Oh dear Lord, that was worse than blind dating. I mean, because in order for you to actually gain value from a mentorship relationship, the number one thing that has to be there is trust.
Yeah.
You got to have the trust, the because without trust, you cannot allow yourself to be sufficiently vulnerable to actually share what's going on. And both from a mentor and a mentee perspective, I often see mentors who deliberately go into a mentorship conversation trying to make that person look like them. All well intended, but the part that gets lost is the mentee.
Yeah.
The gift that they bring to the table, the expertise that they bring to the table, the perspective that they bring to the table can get lost. And I've seen that go exactly the opposite too, where the mentee completely disregards their own expertise, perspective, impact. Yeah. I mean, and tries to contort themselves to match the mentor. Neither one of those serves in any case. A true mentorship, leadership relationship is one of partnership. It's let me uncover more of who I am and show that to you, and have you uncover more of who you are and show that to me. And then let's talk about the magic we can create when we're working together.
Yep. It's building relationships.
Funny that.
Pretty simple that. I mean, I love how you did that. You broke that down and we make so complex that we're building a relationship here. You're a guest, a host. It's just let things flow. Let's jump into inner success. And thank you for that leadership. That was well said. For a lot of people talk about leadership, that's one of the top I've heard. I could tell you've been a leader and you've taught it. And that's so important, because experience is a great teacher, right? So inner success.
Yeah, and most of her lessons are quite memorable.
They could come and give you a little slappy slap. Yep. No, that's so true. And as I said in the beginning, inner success, I'm a big sports guy, play a lot of sports. It's not talked about enough in sports, and I think it should. But you talk about, what's the key ingredients of somebody searching inner success?
Oh, that is a huge question. How much time do we have?
We have a few.
When it really comes to mastering your own inner game to create that success that you're looking for in the outer world, at the end of the day, it sort of reminds me, when you're a case officer with the CIA, my number one job was to spot, assess, develop, recruit, and handle foreign individuals with access to non-public information of use to U.S. policymakers. So that's a whole lot of words to essentially say my job was to get to know people and uncover what we would call their quote unquote vulnerabilities. So what's a vulnerability? A vulnerability is the source of someone's greatest fear, pain, or dissatisfaction. Now, notice I said the source of it, not the actual fear, pain, or dissatisfaction itself, but the real source of it. Because as a case officer, if I could uncover the source of the fear, pain, or dissatisfaction, I could do one of two things. I could use that source to get someone to do what I needed them to do, which was usually what I was doing if I was trying to recruit them. That was often my first objective. But here's the cool thing. The second thing I can do is I can actually address the source so that fear, pain, or dissatisfaction no longer has any control over them. And that was my ultimate objective. Because of course, once I did recruit somebody, I needed them to be absolutely rock solid, unflappable in any situation. So when you're talking about this inner game of success, it's really about coming in and understanding how you are wired. Not only your strengths, your talents, your gifts, your expertise, the things that light you up and make your heart sing. Yeah, you get to keep all of those, and absolutely we're going to fan the flames on it. But here's the other side of that coin that most people don't want to look at, is that vulnerability piece. Because that is the piece that will sneak up behind you and bite you on the hind end when you're not looking, aka self-sabotage, if you want to use that word in the personal development space.
Interesting.
So the second part of that, the other thing to know, when I said that when I address the source, you can now become unflappable, that vulnerability, that thing that at the moment when it's hidden from you is your greatest source of fear, pain, or dissatisfaction. When we reverse engineer that, it's also the source of your greatest strength.
Interesting. Turns upside down, basically, in a sense.
Completely turns it upside down. Wow. It is a capacity inside yourself you never even knew you had. And the best part about it is it was forged in fire. So it is the strongest part of you. It is the most reliable part of you. And the best part, it's automatic. So when the stakes are high and the chips are down, that is what's going to run. All I have to do is show you how it works.
So, for example, and I, CIA and I know secrets and stuff. So you have a potential spy, and their fear is being killed. And fix me, but I want to honestly understand this, because that would be my fear if I'm going to be a spy. But I'm going to go to you, hey, Martha or Colonel, whatever I say. Hey, I don't want to die. I'd love to help you, but my fear is I don't want to die. So you go to the source of that, correct? Fill that in for me.
Yeah. So actually, this is going to sound really harsh when I say it.
All right.
But for most people, death is actually not the fear.
Interesting. Really?
The actual source of that greatest fear, pain, or dissatisfaction is, I failed as a father. I failed as a mother. I failed as a son. I failed as a daughter. I don't want the world to know what I really want. And that's how this is what I'm talking about when I say the source of the greatest fear, pain, or dissatisfaction. Because when these are running in the dark in the background, and this is just a short list off the top of my head,
Sure.
you can imagine it's a rather infinite list, but when these are running in the dark in the background, they're actually driving your behavior. So, I failed as a father can, again, and I'm making up a story here, can turn into working all the time and never seeing my family because I really wanted to make a whole lot of money because I wanted to be able to send my daughter to the college of her choice. And then I overcommitted and now I'm in dire financial straits. So I go out and I take another chance. I make another gamble. And now what do?
Okay.
But if you roll that back, if we can understand, once we break that down as to what's actually driving you is, wow, I failed as a father. Now, if I can address that source, I can show you were an amazing father. You were making decisions on behalf of your daughter, whether they played out the way you wanted them to or not, that's a different conversation. But when we've got that conversation on the table in the light, now we can make a different decision. But because it's so deeply seated and you don't know it's running, you think the problem is I'm just not making enough money. Or you think the problem is I'm working too much, or I'm not working enough, or my daughter doesn't get me, or I'm just not cut out for this, or maybe I did it wrong.
All negativity. So
Yeah.
it goes back to, because I did all this, I don't want to die because I think I made all these bad decisions. So the death is going back to that mindset of I was a terrible father. You remove that, death takes away, the mind is out of the mind. What do you need me to do? Because I'm not worried about it. Is that
Because now I'm essentially making decisions with a clear head. I am taking action from a clear place. And I am taking action with a clarity and a confidence. In fact, as I'm saying this, it sort of reminds me of a story, because when I was going through tradecraft school, they send you through an extensive course on surveillance detection, as you can imagine, because if you're going to go out and do a clandestine act, you better know whether or not somebody's watching you. And I can remember sitting in class one day, and we used to call, so you go out and you do your surveillance detection run. And there's a specific form in the class that we had to fill out so that you knew for a fact that you were spotting actual surveillance versus what we would call ghosts, which is when you think you're under surveillance, but you're not.
Mm.
And the discussion question when we got back to class was, which is worse? Not detecting your surveillance when you're on your surveillance detection run, or seeing ghosts when you're on your surveillance detection run. And the truth is, both are fatal flaws, because both make sure the mission can't happen, and both lead to disaster in one form or the other. Either you don't get the information, or you do get the information, but both of you just got compromised, and now somebody's going to jail or worse, depending on where you are.
Right.
And it's sort of the same thing when you're talking about inner game and you're stepping up in terms of leadership and you're stepping up in terms of business. If you don't know how you are wired, you will see ghosts as you're going forward in your business. Yeah, as you're looking at business decisions from a strategic perspective. Do I hire this person? Do I not hire this person? Do I launch this program? Do I not launch this program? Do I fund this project? Do I not fund this project? If you don't know how you're wired, you can find yourself making critical business decisions like that.
Yeah.
Based on ghosts as opposed to what's actually there.
That's powerful. And that's in you. It's amazing. Yeah. It's because I've had ghosts and I've got rid of them and my life has completely changed. So I've lived that and had mentors and leaders to help me that what you do. That's listeners, that's a powerful message. I would listen to this again and learn what she's talking about, because I asked some very direct, somewhat impossible questions, but I loved how you answered that, because now I understand. It's clear for me, I'm sure for a lot of others. Let's have a little bit of fun while we get to the end here. Well, you gave me some questions, and I'm going to ask you, where do the mentors come from? What the hell's the mentor?
So you have to know, I am a huge, huge Harry Potter fan. And here's the funny thing about how I became a Harry Potter fan. So I mean, because this was when the Harry Potter books first came out. And you remember there was all this brouhaha in the media there for a while about, oh, Harry Potter's evil. You can't read Harry Potter. Take it away from the children. Don't let them see it. And I'm the kind of person, as soon as you tell me that, what is the first thing I'm going to do? I am going to go, yeah, I am going to go get my hands on that and find out what is the big fat hairy deal about these books. And so I happened to be on a flight back from the United States to where I happened to be posted in the Middle East at the time. And I had a long layover in Amsterdam. So I went through the bookstore, and there happened to be Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Well, I was like, well, perfect. I finished my book. I don't, because this was back in the days when airline movie choices weren't that great. So I snagged the book, and I had finished it cover to cover between Amsterdam and the time I landed in the Middle East. And I absolutely fell in love. I'm like, let me see what's so awful here. Let's see. We're talking a whole book about loyalty, tolerance, acceptance, support, love, lots of other social consciousness messages in there. I'm like, not really seeing the evil side.
Missing that part, aren't you?
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, how soon can I get my hands on the next one? So yeah, I was that person who would go see the movie the same week it came out.
So that leads to a question, because I read personal development more than anything else. Did the book and the movie kind of follow? I know movies never follow completely, but were you happy with the end result?
It was actually one of the best, because you're right. Usually if you've got a book and they translate it into a movie, they cut so much out that it doesn't have the depth and the richness that the books did.
Yeah.
This is a case where I think they did a darn good job. I mean, obviously they had to cut out some, but it's an indicator when the movies are 3 hours long, 3+ hours. It certainly doesn't feel like it when you're watching it.
No.
But as the book to movie translation goes, I think they did a really good job on this one.
I love to hear that, because I think that's what it's all about. Let me leave you with this, a couple of things. The importance of inner success. You've really mapped it out for me. I'm sure a lot of listeners, but what's the importance of this?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's again, to borrow some old army words, it's about being all you came here to be. It's about making the difference you are here to make. And you can't do that if you don't have a chance to figure out how magnificent you truly are. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Magnificent's a key word too, because you're not just saying average or mediocre or neutral. Magnificent, outstanding, incredible. Love that. And we think like that, things will happen. I tell people, it's not, you can't put a timing, not how, when, or where. Just know it's going to, if you keep going with inner success that you teach. One more last question. It's a number question. How many licks in the does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll? I've always wanted our Tootsie Pop. What is the answer to that? Do you know?
I have no idea, because I never did it either. I could never get there without biting it.
Amen.
And
Okay,
then I was
that's
like, well, what constitutes a lick? If you just that one lick, or then you get the lick suck thing, is that one lick or two? It gets complicated.
it is. It's more complicated inner success. That is for sure.
Amen.
Well, Martha, I've just got to say, I've learned a lot about you today. I'm blessed that you've been on the show. I'm so thankful because you really get it and you're helping others and you're serving others. And audience, listen to this show again and learn more. I'm going to do the same thing. That's what podcasts are for. I say this once in a while. They're made to be like a good book, watched over or listened to over and over again. So Martha, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast having a conversation with you, and I cannot wait to see the ripples that you create with the fantastic guests. I've been listening to your podcast for a while, preparing
Thank
for
you.
us to come together. And yeah, I love the guests that you have. I love the work that you're doing. And I see you as part of that rising tide that lifts all boats. So
Amen.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much. And we'll bring you back for part 2. I just thought we got more inner success to talk about here. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode where we can motivate, inspire, and educate you. Have a great day.